Not all work is created equally. That's a topic that came up last week, and I would love to be able to dig into it a little bit more here on our live event. My name is Cantey. I am an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. On Business Vitality, we share business best practices, what's working, what's not working to keep businesses vital year after year, decade after decade. And I learned about this firsthand, spending 20 plus years in corporate. When you begin to bridge communications, you begin to find out that practical applications are what continues to allow businesses to remain vital. And the folks that we're working with, the teams, the individuals, we are working with leaders to create measured leadership change. We're doing that using practical applications. Because we use practical applications, we are able to accelerate the results. So 100% of my clients have created measured results as what they set for us when we started working together. So I'm very excited for the hard work that they're doing, and just wanted to share some of the work that we're talking about when we're working together. And the thought is not all work is created equally. Not all work is going to get you the same results. And if you've ever worked with me, you know that I use these little poker chips that I had made. And on the backside is the 80-20 rule. And a lot of folks that play golf, they like to use these as their ball markers. But I like to use it as a reminder. Stick it in your pocket, stick it in the golf bag, stick it wherever you need to. But you got to remember Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule. And we brought that up this past week. And not all work is created equally. Yes, we have a lot of work that has to get done. But which pieces of the work that you're doing today are actually going to drive home the impact that you're looking for sustainability, for growth, for metrics, for whatever that your KPIs are. And when we get back to the 80-20 and we go back to Mr. Pareto, who came up with this in Italy, he realized that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people. So let's think about it and apply it in other areas. You know, when we look at our to-do list every day, we all know that we're going to have that 80% of work that has to get done. But really, if we're going to create the metrics and the measurements and the change and the impact, there's really only about, give or take, about 20% of the work that we do every day that will consistently deliver the results. And as I'm working with individuals today, whether they're individuals or they're teams of folks that are working, we're beginning to see that, you know, what you used to do is not the same thing that you need to keep doing in order to grow the business. And my friend Marshall Goldsmith wrote a great book about it called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. It's a very simple, practical application. Again, you know, I have to explain to a lot of folks that are transitioning into the C-suite is what you did in the beginning. It's now easy, and it's like a comfort thing. You know, we want to get back to what we know and what we excelled at. But now work is going to be defined in a completely different way. And what we used to do, you know, our 20% of what we used to do to create results is no longer the same 20%. And just because we have 100 things to do every day doesn't mean that if we do all this work that we're going to get that 100% result. There's usually just a few drivers that are behind there that really create the impact and create the change. And so I just want to talk about some of these practical applications. And I'm glad that you're here. If you want to learn more about the work that we're doing, you can reach out to us at catherinecantey.com. You can find our podcast, Business Vitality, on all the major outlets. We try to put a new episode out there every other week. We've been doing this for a number of years now. And I'm excited just to continue to share. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've had countless people pour into me. I had a reach out last week from an individual, didn't realize that I had been banking for 20 years. And we had some of the same mutual contacts. And, you know, my job for a long time was to pack a suitcase and fly or drive to wherever the customers, the clients were. And I never really had, you know, the connections at home. And so I have to, you know, kind of make new connections with folks that I've heard names for and faces for. You know, maybe I didn't get to see the faces all the time, but I get to hear the stories. And to be back home and to not be packing a suitcase every Monday and leaving is pretty cool to kind of fill in the gap of all these names that I've heard about over the years. And so I had somebody reach out last week and we started talking. We realized we know all the same people. We just know them in different ways. Mine was through, an airport in a car, and somebody else, they knew them, years before that. So it's great to be able to just connect with folks. And again, a lot of people reach out and they're just like, Catherine, I don't know if you can help, but can you listen? And so that's where it all starts. And I'm excited just to be able to share these practical applications, because the folks that taught me this, um, the successes, they ring true with practical applications. And that's what we do with the coaching, with the consulting work that I'm doing with teams and individuals. And um, the teams and individuals, they're creating measured leadership change. They're creating measured change, and they're doing this because we're using practical applications. And I'm going to give you an exercise at the end of this. And if you have the courage to give it a shot, I'll challenge you to answer a question at the end of this, like we did this past week. So today, I just want to reiterate, not all work is created equal. We really do have to dig into the 80-20 and ask ourselves, what are we doing to remain vital in business? And are we staying true to that 20% every single day that's going to continue to drive forward the focus? And so, Mr. Pareto, he realized that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. And so we began to look at this 80-20. If we focus on the 20% that are going to get us the results at work, we focus on that 20%, it's going to give us the 80% impact that we're looking for. It goes true on the other side. If we focus on this 80%, we may only get 20% results. And Mr. Pareto comes back and he talks about it may not always be exactly 80-20, it may be 70-30. But the point is, don't get stuck in the numbers. The point is, what are the key drivers? If I consistently say that I'm going to show up and record, videos like this every Monday for a year, like that is a commitment that I want to make. And this may be one of my 20%. And being able to hear topics from individuals and to be able to share practical applications and be able to share it back here consistently over time, hopefully will help, connect with others, and for folks to be able to reach out and maybe have a reunion like I kind of did on earlier, just last week. So it's interesting how this evolves, but we really have to be intentional about our time. And so when we talk about the 80-20, when I was with a group last week, what we did talk about was, if you're doing employee engagement, if you're doing client engagement type work, let's think about it. What if we add one question at the end of the survey when we have new clients that come in or enroll in new programs? And the client question can be very simple. How did you hear about us? When did you know you needed to call us? Whatever it may be. But let's look at that question and those responses over time. It could be employee engagement. How engaged are you at the office, or whatever your employee engagement question is? The point is, add a simple question to the survey, to your new clients, to your employee engagement. We actually added a very simple question when we were working on the broadband work. We worked with the school district, and we realized if we could add one question at the end of that survey that was intentional, we could figure out who within our county had reliable broadband through the households that were coming in based off of this one simple question. So be intentional about your questions. Don't just assume that you've always had the same questions, whether they're client questions, whether they're engagement questions with your team. Just because you've always asked them, make sure you go back and look at them and make sure, are these relevant questions that we're getting? And if you do want to add just a very simple question at the end for engagement, or how did they hear about us, more than likely, you're going to find themes again. You're going to find the 80-20. You're going to find where the bulk of these customers, clients are coming from. You're going to find where the bulk of your talent is, and you're going to be able to identify pretty good information in order for you to continue to grow and implement what you're seeing. So be intentional with the questions. Be intentional with how you're spending your time. Be intentional with the results. Like, how are you going to use this information in order to continue to grow and continue to create the impact that you're looking for. So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the Pareto principle. If you are new to just tuning into this, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. I love to be able to share business best practices on the podcast called Business Vitality, found at a number of outlets. And I interview business owners and leaders, and we find out what's working and what's not working, because I know, spending 23 years in banking, that some of the best practices that were out there were not uber complicated, but we were allowing ourselves to learn from each other. And what worked for one could be something that works for somebody else. And so we love to share just best practices on the podcast. And I'm also an executive coach and a consultant. And what I have found is when we need to create measured change, measured leadership change, when we get it down to practical applications, it's so much easier to adapt to it. It's so much easier to be consistent with it. And because we're using practical applications, we can accelerate the results for the clients that we're serving. And 100% of my clients have been able to create measured results as they measured it. They set the metrics at the beginning of the engagement. And then throughout the engagement, we do some pulse checks. And then at the end, I want to make sure that they have success. And 100% of my clients have been able to create that success. And thinking about just a simple application is the Pareto principle. Something else that we've been talking about that ties into, the 80-20 rule is time management and focus management. So if we think about it, we've got time management, which, we all talk about it and we don't always do something about it. So it's really hard, because I've got folks that I've worked with and I've given workshops and we've talked about it. And at some point we have to stop talking about it and we have to start doing it. So begin to figure out how we're going to implement this, and to maybe take a twist on time management. What I have found to be very helpful is to be able to look at focus management. So it's a little bit different. You still have time blocks, but when you have focus management, you're able to turn off the computer, turn off the cell phone, turn off the chats, turn off whatever electronic device is in the background. I've got folks that actually go lock themselves up in the truck or the car or wherever it is, turn on the air conditioning, and get back to just good old piece of paper and a pen and start focusing on what are these key items that we need to focus on, continue to finish out this year strong. And when we shift from time management, I think, is a nice entryway into these time blocks and being intentional about our time. But if we want to take it and put it on one more level, put it on steroids, it really is focus management. And how are you focusing during that time? How are you dedicating yourself during that time? How are you turning off the other noise that is happening in this world? And I'm beginning to hear more and more people talk about how they're turning off the news at 6 o'clock at night because they just don't want to hear it anymore. And so they're choosing to use that time in a different way. And we get to choose how we use our time. We all have the same amount of time, and we get to use our time however we need to. And if we need to create different exercises and time blocks and buffers throughout the day, I've got videos on, some of my best time management tips and tricks. Those are out there on the YouTube channel. They're out there on LinkedIn. My YouTube channel can be found at Catherine Cantey. And we've got a couple different channels set up under my name or playlists for you to be able to see. But really, time management is one thing. Focus management is a whole nother game. And focus management, if you can focus for a good solid hour, which may be like, whoa, I don't know if I can go without my phone for an hour, you would be blown away how much work, how much thinking, how much clarity time you can get out of a good hour. I mean, a good hour of work and nobody's interrupting you. I mean, you could probably get a couple hours of normal work done in the office, just 1 hour at the house, or 1 hour at the coffee shop where nobody's interrupting you, or 1 hour in your car or truck, to be able to just knock stuff out. And to create that focus management, first, we got to come up with a list. Like, we just need to go through the emails and figure out what's on fire and what's not on fire and what is the most urgent thing we need to do. Again, getting back to creating the results. What are the 20% of things that you need to do in order to get the 80% results? And focus management, having some focus time, even at the end of the week to prepare for the next week, or even first thing Monday morning, don't book any calendar appointments and have that focus time to intentionally own how you're going to work throughout the week could reap a huge amount of benefits. So if you're just tuning in, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. We work with individuals and leaders to create measured change, measured leadership change. And we do that because we are able to use practical applications. Because we use practical applications, we're able to accelerate the results. I have had a lot of people pour into me over the years. There's no real great way to be able to give a gift back to somebody who poured 40 and 50 years of knowledge into me. There's been just a huge number of talented people that let me learn from them. And my way of being able to pay them back is to be able to have these videos, to be able to share the work, to be able to just continue to teach what they taught me. I saw a lot of value in it. And today, this is how I want to be able to pay it forward and be able to, support and say thank you to the people that poured into me. So today we're talking about not all work is created equally. We've talked about the Pareto's principle, 80-20. We've talked about time management versus focus management. And now I have a question. A question is, you've got a list of things that you had to do last week. You have a list of things that you have to do this week. We can narrow this thing down. You have a list of things that have to be done today. And if you have a list of things that you have to do today, I want you to write down 10 of them. Write down 10 things that you have to do today. There's going to be a few of you that are like, 10, I've got 100. You probably do have 100. There may be a few of you that are struggling after the 3 or 4 items. That's fine too. Most folks are usually erring on the larger side. They have this ongoing list, an ongoing task list. And I would love for you to write down 10 things that you have to get done. So if you can write that down, I'll give you a minute while I'm talking, and I'll continue to talk a little, but just jot down, what are the things you have to do? Sometimes I get the question, well, do I think about the stuff at home, or do I only think about the stuff at work? It's your life. You've got only 24 hours a day. Put it all down. For the longest time, I kept my world separate. I was Katie at home and I was Catherine at work because I thought Katie Caney sounded silly and I couldn't go work on business development efforts being 22 years old, newly married, and trying to call on businesses. So I went back to my given name, which is Catherine. And I thought for the next 25 years that, just having separate identities would keep everything separate and nice and neat. And it just dawned on me a few years ago that I'm the same person that I am at the house. I'm the same person at work. We're all the same. So if we're the same person everywhere, then put down the whole list. Everything is going to happen, whether it's at the house or it's going to be at work. It's your day. It's your time. So just put down whatever those key drivers are and know that some days it's more important to get that stuff done at the house than it might be to get the stuff done at work. It may happen once in a blue moon. So just think about one list, 10 things. If you think about it, if you got a kid's birthday party this week, that's a pretty big item. And yeah, that's considered a home thing. But if you don't keep the home happy, then it's going to dribble over into the work environment, which is a whole nother conversation. So, if it's, I just need to send out 3 emails this week of people who can help me plan for the kid's birthday party, then that's what you got to do. But write down your 10 things that you've got to do either today or this week. And I want you now to circle the 2 things that are most important for you to be able to have a successful week. And look at the list and realize that, yes, all 10 of these have to get done. But where's the urgency? Where are the 2 things, maybe 3, maybe 2 or 3 things that you've got to get done in order for this week to be set up for success? So if you can do that, we're now implementing, it's a very small, test of this whole thing, but we're now implementing the 80-20 rule. Yes, we all have a list of countless things that we have to do. Today, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about everything. When I take time, take clarity time, take thinking time, and I realize what are the few things I've absolutely got to do. you figure it out. And as Brian Tracy writes in his book, Eat That Frog, you begin to realize, let's get these two things done quick, because those are going to be the things that we can get off the table. They're the ones that are going to set us up for success. And then the rest of this can fill in our calendar and fill in our time. And if we get it done first, then we're not going to be stuck at 4:45 going, oh man, I got to get those other two things done. Just eat that frog first, as Brian Tracy likes to talk about, and know that these two things that you're working on are going to be what sets you up for success for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And if you're managing a lot of people, your number one priority, if it's not already, should be getting the roadblocks out of the people that work for you. How do you make their jobs easier? Because there's more power in 5 of your direct reports doing work than you having to do all the work, which is a whole nother topic for another time. So if you're managing people, I urge you to put down one of your things of how can I make it easier for these other people that work on my team to get their job done. And you do not have the answers. Your team has the answers. They know what the roadblocks are. They know what they need help with, and they probably don't want to ask for help. So just reach out to them and say, hey, is there anything I can do to get anything out of your way so you can be fully successful today? If you're just listening, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. I work with individuals and I work with teams to create measured change, measured leadership change. We are able to use practical applications. Because we use practical applications, we are able to accelerate the results. 100% of my clients have been able to create measured success. I am extremely proud of the hard work and the commitment that they have made to create the success that they are receiving. And if you're interested and you want to learn more, please visit me at catherinecantey.com. You can schedule a 45-minute complimentary call if you want to just brainstorm and come up with some ideas. I've done a couple of complimentary coaching calls this past week from a workshop that I taught at Furman University. I taught the workshop, and then when they stayed for the afternoon portion, they could sign up for an optional coaching call, and we just turned them into power calls. And these talented leaders, whether they were new to their role and didn't articulate really well everything that they've gotten done in a very short period of time, they had a game plan after this 45-minute power call, and they knew that they had created success, and we created a communication plan around it. And not just that, but what is the plan going forward? What are the next 30 days going to be just as impactful as the past 60 days? And had another call with another leader who is just incredibly talented and is looking for the next great thing because they accomplish everything they go after. So really able to laser in and focus. And I was also able to have another call with a leader that I've worked with over the years, and we just come in and we just kind of fine tune things every once in a while. And I'm excited to see what they're going to create next too. And sometimes you just need a power call to be able to knock it out. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. If you want to learn more about the work that we're doing, you can visit me at catherinecantey.com. And I appreciate you being here for me to be able to share another practical application, the 80-20 rule. I stuck it on a poker chip because it's just easy to be able to lay on the desk and to remember what are the 2 things I got to do today in order to drive forward the success. And so today we talked about the Pareto's principle. We talked about time management versus focus management. And then we did a short exercise. Write down 10 things that you've got to do today. When you write those 10 things down, what are the 2 things, maybe 3 things that you got to do to drive results? Where are the 2 things you got to do to get the 80% impact, 80% return? And I challenge you to continue to do that. Again, this is just another practical application that is supporting leaders for them to remain vital year after year, decade after decade. It doesn't have to be hard. We can boil it back down to the business basics because that is what people are doing. The fundamentals, they are always back to the fundamentals. No matter what cycle we may be going through, you get back to the business fundamentals, you find what works, and you go back and you just do it over and over again, and consistency wins. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Catherine Cantey. Reach out to me at catherinecantey.com. I would be happy to hear from you. And this is my way of paying back all the people that poured into me. I just want to continue to pay it forward to others. And if you're curious about some of the work we're doing, reach out, schedule a call. I'd be curious to hear from you, what's on your mind. And if there's a way to help, I'd be happy to help. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.